Thank you for joining us tonight. Can everyone hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, good. I think there will be a few more people joining and we do have some that are not joining by video. So I'll just go ahead and get started because I have a little thank you to throw out to everybody. For many of you participated or watched the Wings for Widows first ever virtual benefit. That was 2 weeks ago, and we are just thrilled at how well it was received. And our goal, we had two goals. One, and most important, was just to get the word out about who we are and what we do and the uniqueness of Wings for Widows. And number two, we wanted to raise a little money. And in both cases, we were very blessed, very successful. Our goal was $50,000, and we raised that in the first hour. And we still have money coming in. We still don't know the total tally because money is still coming in. And if you missed it and are interested in watching the benefit, you can still watch it. It's on YouTube. Just go to the Wings for Widows website and then look for the little YouTube logo, which is a square with a red arrow in it. And click on that and it comes right up and you'll be able to watch it. It lasts just about an hour, but it's kind of nice. It's got some entertainment in it and a lot of good information and testimonials. So if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I hope you will. Tonight is our second to the last Zoom community call for this year. We're going to start fresh in 2021, and hopefully a lot of things will start fresh in 2021. The next time we get together, it will be on preparing for the holidays and preparing for year end from a financial and record keeping point of view. So I think it'll be a useful evening. Tonight, this is a topic that I wanted to cover, and I just didn't know who to ask. And here turns out Julie Hull, who has shared with us before, has a special certification in grief counseling for children. And so she is the ideal person to share these resources with us this evening. And you'll see on your screen some resources, websites, and books that she highly recommends. And I've got them up there so that you have a chance to write down that information while you're listening to her. And then, we hope to put that on our website as well, so you can refer others to it. And then after Julie, Denise Gibson, who is one of our great enrichment class teachers. She's currently teaching a class on home maintenance via Zoom. And tonight she's going to talk about communication and medical record keeping, so that we all, and I'm going to really pay attention because I'm taking care of my mom, and the pile of documents is huge, and communicating with her different caregivers is a challenge. So I think it'll be a very useful and helpful evening. Thank you. Julie is the director of Renewing Hope Counseling Center in Burnsville. She's a speaker and advocate for the wounded. She offers a hope-filled message without sugarcoating the pain. And she believes that each person's story is unique and we each need to connect with others and fit together into the larger story of God's action in this world. So I welcome you again, Julie, and really look forward to hearing what you have to say about children and their form of grieving and how we can help them. So thank you again for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. One of the best things about being part of a healing community is we get to learn from each other. And so I just want to share a little bit of what I've learned and what I see in my practice as I work with grieving patients and I work with kids. So, what we're going to do tonight is I've got a lot of stuff I want to pack in, maybe 20 minutes or so, 25, and we might have time for some questions if there are any. But I'm going to start out with 10 ways to help a grieving child. And then I'm also going to touch a little bit on parenting, or yes, on parenting when you have someone in the family with a terminal illness, whether that be a spouse or a sibling or another family member. And then some effective communication tips. And then also I want to look a little bit at grief in developmental stages. And I won't go really clinical on that, but I do want us all to be aware of maybe what we're seeing in our kids or our grandkids. How does that kind of, stack up with developmental milestones and that kind of thing. So we'll touch on that. And then I'm going to wrap it up with grief rights for kids. And that's a really cool kind of a 10-point manifesto of our kids are designed exactly the way God designed them, very unique, and they're going to grieve very uniquely in their own way. So for us to really kind of embrace that and not be afraid of that. So that's where we're going to start. So 10 ways to help a grieving child. And there are so many more than 10, but these are kind of my top level ones. The first one might sound a little counterintuitive. It's taking care of you. So it starts with us. So as we know, as moms and caregivers and just people out in the world, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we are completely depleted, we have no reserve to give to our kids or our grandkids to pour into those that need us. So we really do have to look at self-care as not being selfish. It's really for the benefit of our families. So, take care of yourself, do get the exercise when you can, take that nap. If you're not sleeping, at least have a set time to close your eyes and regenerate and regroup, whatever it takes for you to, get through your day when you're grieving and you're helping grieving kids. So that's number one. And then number two is be honest with your child. And, you're the expert on your child, obviously, but, age appropriately, just tell them the truth, whatever the circumstances were surrounding your loved one's death. Be as honest as you can. Children feel so much safer when they feel like they're getting the true story and nothing's being hidden from them. So we need to tell our children the truth, and they need to hear it from us, the people that they trust and they love. And then third is, it sounds really easy, but it's difficult, and that's listen. So really listen to your child. How are they telling the story? That's their story to them. Listen to their questions and don't be afraid to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. When my husband was really sick, my 10-year-old would come to me and he'd only want to talk about daddy at like 10 o'clock at night when I was just totally exhausted and in bed trying to sleep. And he would crawl in bed with me. And what about this? And what about that? And, is daddy going to die? And I obviously didn't have the answer to that question. So what I did was I attuned to the feeling and I went with the feeling and I said, you know what, buddy, I don't know the answer to that, but it sounds like you might be really afraid or you're really worried about that. You sound concerned about that. So I was honest and truthful. I didn't lie to him, but I also could not answer that question. So I had to say, I don't know, and just attune to his feeling. So that's number three. Number four, acknowledge your child's grief. So again, kids move in and out of grief reactions really, really quickly. They can be, misbehaving one minute, be outside playing, laughing like nothing's happened the next minute, come in and have a meltdown, all within the same day. And they're trying to get a hold of what's happening to them. They're trying to make some sense. And it's hard enough for us as adults. Intellectually, we know people die, but if it hasn't happened to us and it might be our first experience, our emotions are all over the place. So, acknowledge your child's grief. And then sometimes I think they're trying to give us clues. So like I would have my kids sit down and say, you know what, why don't you draw a picture of what you're feeling? Or do you want to write a letter to daddy, in heaven, or whatever it was, trying to get some clue as to how they were doing with it. And again, quite often, they were outside playing and acting like nothing had happened. And that was developmentally appropriate for their ages at that time. And then number five is share. And, that's telling our kids stories about our life. I think kids love to hear the loved ones in their life, their adults, tell about when they were kids. You know, even, trying to attune with them and say, well, one time when I was little, I was really afraid. Here's what happened to me. I felt this way. And you not only create safety, your kid gets to see you normalize the conversation. They get to say, wow, mom's a grown up and she was really, really afraid. You know what? It must be okay to be afraid. So basically, it's giving them permission to, tell their story and to be sad and to be angry and, you know, normalize what they're experiencing, kind of coming alongside again. So that's number 5. Number 6, this kind of goes with 5 too. It's, be creative. So it doesn't cost anything, but give our kids a way to express themselves. And it can be done with, playing a board game together, doing a craft, drawing, writing a story, listening to music, just anything that can kind of help them express maybe what they're feeling is really, really helpful. And then number 7, this is a tough one. And it's, I wrote it as maintain clear expectations. So I don't know how many of us on this call are familiar with boundaries, but boundaries are healthy and they're meant to keep the good in. Oftentimes people think boundaries are, oh, you don't want this from me, it's restrictive, and it's really not. It's meant to keep the safety in. Okay. So the boundaries when kids are having really big emotions and they're experiencing all kinds of feelings, we also need to teach them, yes, it's okay to express yourself, but they need to be accountable by whatever choices they're making, no matter how they feel. So, you can come to me and I can say, I'm really sorry, I'm flooded right now, I'm overwhelmed, I can't talk to you. Mom needs to put herself in a timeout for a few minutes and then I'll come back and talk to you. So it's things like that, no matter how we're feeling, we still are accountable for how we behave. And again, that so runs the gamut of all different ages. But number 8 is reassure your child. So that's pretty straightforward too. Let them know they're loved. Let them know that you are there for them. When someone dies, our sense of safety is so shaken. No matter how old you are, no matter how much life experience you've had, it is a trauma. It is a really hard thing to feel and to go through. So, we can't promise our kids that we're not going to die or other people aren't going to die, but we can let them know that we're there for them. And I know when my husband died, he died of a terminal illness. He was sick for 18 years of a very rare cancer. My youngest was really afraid I was going to die. And I obviously couldn't say, well, no, that's never going to happen, honey. Don't worry about that. But I said, you know what? If something does happen to mom, I have a plan in place. We have uncle and aunt that are going to be there for you. So that really helps him feel like, okay, so that feels good to me. I mean, not that I want that to happen, but at least I'm not going to be left all by myself because now I know parents die and that's really scary. So that's reassure your child. And then number 9 is create rituals and family traditions. And this is anything that means something to you to honor the loved one in your family that has died. I'll give an example of one family I know. They get the entire family, and once a year they volunteer at the Crisis Nursery in Minneapolis because that was a really important place for the mom of that family. She worked there and that was her legacy, and she really wanted that to continue after she was gone. So they go and volunteer there once a year. So it's highly, whatever it means to you, but just think of creative ways you can honor your person and you can involve the whole family, no matter what the ages of your children are or your grandchildren. And then the last one, number 10, this one is really taking the long road. This is being patient with yourself, being patient with your kids. It's grief takes so much longer than we think. It's called grief work because it actually is work, and it's daily and sometimes it's hourly. And, we don't want it to last as long as it does. We don't want it to be as hard as it is. And we maybe never expected it would be, but it is. So, be patient with your child. If they keep coming back to you with those same questions or having to hear that same story or get that same reassurance, keep offering that and be patient with yourself too. Many of us would not have written our story the way it has been written, but here we are, and this is where we find ourselves in our story. So let's walk with it, with each other together and helping each other through it. So that is the 10 ways to help a grieving child. And let's see. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about intentional parenting with terminal illness. And I don't know if that applies to anyone on the call tonight, but it's a really unique situation, and the family life still has to go on, and you have to do everything you were called to do as a mom, a wife, a parent, whatever, and you're helping someone that has a terminal illness in your family, whether you're the spouse or a sibling. And so I have the 4 C's of intentional parenting with terminal illness. The first one is, I just termed it care circle. And it's really identifying your life team. And I hope we all have a life team, but it might not be possible that we all have multiple people that can help us during, really hard things like this. But maybe there's 1 or 2 people you can identify, and they're the people that can run errands for you, that can take kids to school or activities. And I know we're not doing that as much as we used to, but all the busyness, I think, we need to have help. And people really do want to help when you're in grief or when you are caregiving. So that's the first one. The second one is conversations with your children. And that's about changes in your family. So I remember I got my whole family together and I said, so things look different around here. There's a hospital bed in the family room. And, daddy needs to sleep. We're going to have to kind of figure out how we're all going to pitch in and help. So I really, encourage families to get involved together and have it be a team approach and say, hey, things are harder, things are different, but let's be here for each other. Let's maybe be a little kinder to brother or sister. Let's maybe be a little bit more patient, just chores and checklists and a thank you goes a long, long way when you're experiencing a difficult time. So that's the second C. The third C is clarify. And this is really, edit your priorities. There's so many, many things that we have that make up our day that keep us so busy that might not be as important as we think they are. And maybe this has all sort of, been revealed to us through the 7 months of being in the pandemic. But really focus on what you have to do and let go of some of those things when you're overwhelmed and when you're caregiving and taking care of kids and sick people. The last one goes back to our check in with yourself, the self-care piece. Really, really, think about it this way. It's what, they tell us on airplanes. Put your mask on first before assisting others. So you yourself have enough resources so you've got something to give back. So that is just from my personal experience, a little word on that. And then I put this in every single talk I do, whether I'm doing a talk on grief or something else, effective communication tips. Because you know what? I need to be reminded of this. I think we all can be reminded. We have to reinforce the really importance of communication sets the tone for the entire relationship. So how's it going to go? What's it going to look like? And, the number one thing here is listen carefully. And the goal is to listen for understanding, not to listen to respond. So, I've done this before on Wings for Widows too, but I always visualize a heart with ears. So listen from your heart. You don't need to listen to understand, to respond. You need to listen to let that person know they've been seen, they've been heard, they matter. It's probably one of the most impactful things we can do for one another that actually costs nothing, needs no training. It's simply a ministry of presence. It's simply just listening. And with that piece too comes the body language piece and the posture. Lean in, give them your full undivided attention, eye contact, shake your head, let them know that you are really, really for them. And sometimes, unintentionally, we may not be giving off that vibe that we're really listening and we really care. But the impact is huge. And again, they go away thinking, I was really heard and I was really seen and I matter. So that's huge. That's whether we are in grief or not in grief. So that's just always a good reminder for myself as well. How are we doing on time? Does anyone know? Are we good?
It's 20 after. So,
okay. So I think we're good.
But you got great stuff. Keep going.
Okay. I'm going to do the developmental stages of grief, and I'll just do an overview of that. But I really want to bring it home with my grief rights, because that's my little favorite manifesto for our kiddos. So, okay, grief and developmental stages. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the age, the level of understanding, and what the needs are for that age group. So, 2 and under, we know from research they can sense something's different. They have that ability to know that, they're going to maybe be a little clingy, a little fussy. They're going to know something's up with mom or dad. The need here is the nonverbal cares. It's the holding and the rocking and the stable routine. Each one of these developmental stages, the highest level need is stability and structure. Makes us feel safe when our world is no longer feeling safe. So that's 2 and under. By the time we've got kids 2 to 5, they really think the person's going to return. Oftentimes they don't know it's finite. They don't know, they see death as temporary. They might go through separation anxiety at this age, whereas they were pretty good before. They might regress in some of their developmental milestones. Non-compliance is a huge one. That's a reactive behavior in this age group. And the needs here again are a stable routine and answer questions just simply, honestly, as you can, and reassure them that they're safe with you, and you are there for them, and they've got people that love them. And then from 6 to 9, this age group, they're now beginning to understand that death is permanent. So that's kind of a game changer. Oftentimes in this age group, I see they're afraid other people are going to die. And they also entertain the thought that maybe they did something or didn't do something that caused their loved one's death. So they're really in their heads in this age. There's a lot of exaggerated fears, school phobia, not wanting to leave mom or dad, not wanting to, be out of their sight, kind of things. So those are kind of some of the reactive behaviors in that age group. This age group too, the needs here, again, reassurance that they didn't cause anything. It's nothing they did or didn't do. Listen to them, make sure they know they're heard. They need concrete answers to their concrete questions. They're very concrete thinkers here. Validate their feelings for sure. Say that sounds really hard. It sounds like you might be feeling afraid, those sorts of things. And then 10 to 12, they now have a pretty realistic view of death and its permanence. So they're going to identify strongly with that person's not here anymore, and they are not coming back. At this age too, they start to, present with some practical questions. I know my kids did, now that daddy's dead, do we have to move? Are we poor? Do we have any money? What are you going to do? How is this going to look? Those kinds of, the day-to-day economic questions of my life is totally changing. So some of the reactive behaviors here, they might want to take on the role as like the parent or the sibling that died, or, they want to be fixers. Difficulty concentrating and decline in academic performance is big in this age group too. And the needs here are, again, support, assistance, validate how they're feeling, give them permission to express themselves. If they need to, I bought my one son a punching bag and some gloves so he could go and just do this because he was really ticked off, and he had to have somewhere to let that anger go. So that worked in our situation. And then by the time we get to teens, 13 to 18, they begin to recognize that life is not guaranteed. Life is fragile. It's inevitable. It's irreversible. It's not if we're going to die, it's when we're going to die. So they start to think, in those ways. And they also are very future focused oftentimes in this age group, and they fear the future. They start to maybe question, philosophical things, or their religion or their faith, or the why of this, those sorts of deeper questions. And so the need here for sure is someone that is going to be open and honest and just give them straight answers, and peer support is really, really important. I know my one son didn't want anyone to know in high school that his dad was dead. He didn't want anyone to know he was different. He wanted to be like every other person that had parents and things and no trauma going on in their family. So he really, wanted to do that. And so he needed help in managing that feeling of, I'm going to be okay, even though I am different. And all the other things that go with teenagehood that's, obviously so difficult. So that's just, like I said, I've got a really involved form here. If anyone really wants more, it's this, and I can send it to you. Whoops, I just dropped something. But I do want to stop. I want to finish up with my grief rights. So this is 10 grief rights every kid has, and we want to make sure that we enable them to have this. So number one, I have the right to have my own unique feelings about death. No one's going to feel exactly the way I do. No one's going to understand how I feel. My feelings are mine. Number two, I have the right to talk about my grief whenever I feel like talking. And I will find someone who will listen to me. And on the flip side, when I don't want to talk, please let me know that that's okay too. And then number three, I have the right to show my feelings of grief in my own way. I might get mad and misbehave. It doesn't mean I'm bad. It just means I have scary feelings and I need help with it. Number four, I have the right to need other people to help me with my grief, especially the grown-ups in my life. Mostly I need them to pay attention to me and, to what I'm saying and feeling, and to love me no matter what I'm saying or feeling. And then number five, I have the right to get upset about normal everyday problems. I might be fighting more with my brother or sisters. I might have trouble getting along with people in school that I used to get along with. I might feel grumpy. Number six, I have the right to have grief bursts, and they're sudden, unexpected feelings. And the feelings can be so strong. It's really scary for the kids. And so when that happens, they probably need to be with an adult or with a grown-up. Number seven, I have the right to use my beliefs about God to help me with my grief. Praying might make me feel better. And sometimes when I pray, I feel closer to the person who died. So, if this is your faith story, I really encourage you to cling on to that faith and just hold on to faith to help get you through this, journey that you're on. And then number eight is I have the right to try to figure out why the person I loved died. It's okay if I don't find the answer, but I have lots of questions about life and death. And I think those are the hardest questions in the world. And I want someone to agree with me that they are. Number nine, I have the right to think and talk about my memories of the person who died. Sometimes that will make me happy, and sometimes that might make me feel sad. But either way, memories help me keep alive the love for that person who died. The person died, the love for the person never dies. I have the right to move forward in my life and feel my grief. And over time, I would like to be able to heal. I will always miss the person, but that person will always be part of me. So that is where we'll end. But I want to say in closing too, as grandparents, as parents, as family members, as adults, we're the most valuable resource our kids have in their life. And so with that, we also have a huge opportunity to help them grow, even in the midst of their grief while we're grieving. So my hope is each one of us tonight will be able to continue to walk out our healing with hope and passion and purpose. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Julie. Wow, that was rich, very helpful content. Thank you so much. I feel like, okay, yes, a couple people would like a copy of those grief rights.
Okay.
You want to just send them to me, Julie, and then I can forward them on to the people that request them?
Absolutely.
I see who wants it. Okay, someone is asking a question. Julie, do you have any tips for helping young adult children deal with their grief?
That's, such a good question. And I didn't really address that in this talk, but it's sort of a one size doesn't fit all. And it really depends on so many things, the nature of the relationship with the person that died, how the person died, all of those sorts of things. But regardless of all of the different things, it's really honesty, being honest with them, saying you're there for them, and you will sit and listen to them, and you will, support them in their grief. That's really the answer for that one.
I have to say, I was guilty of kind of forgetting that my children in their 30s were grieving. And, when you're the widow, you feel like everything is on you. But you have to remember that your kids need a lot of, they need you to be their mom still. And that was a mistake that I made, and I'm learning how to do a better job on that.
I love that you said that, Leanne. That's so true, and it's so hard. Actually, one of my kids just said to me, I really feel like you were too busy trying to be the dad and the mom that I really don't feel like I had a mom. And that just crushed me and killed me, but it was really true because I was so focused on keeping that ship going straight ahead, that I kind of forgot to be that nurturing mom that I wish that I'm trying to make up for now.
Yeah, exactly. Just you have so many people saying, how are you doing? And of course you hate that question, but you forget to ask your kids, how are you doing?
Such a good reminder, Leanne. So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there with you, sister.
So let's see, I've got a couple people, there's several people who were on the call tonight do want copies of the grief rights. So I will make notes of who's on there that I'll get those to. One other question, can you speak to how to handle adults who ask inappropriate questions to kids or in front of kids about a terminally ill parent?
Is there any way they could be more specific?
I can be more specific. I'm at swimming lessons right now for my daughter. So just when to my kids or in front of my kids, adults will ask questions about my husband who is terminally ill. And it's just how to handle those or field those questions and not put my kids on the spot. And it just some sentence starters or some ideas of how to protect my kids and not make them have those conversations with people that they might not want to.
That's such a good question too. So here's where I would start with that. I would just say, you know what, we are going through a really hard time and we're going to get through this together, but I would really appreciate it if you would just let me be the person that's giving my kids the information right now. So basically what I'm saying is you're acknowledging that you guys are going through this, you're all together, and this is really inappropriate for them, but in a soft way saying, please don't talk to my kids about these sorts of things. That's really on me. I hope that helps.
I think I have down the names of the people that have requested the grief rights or children's rights. So I think we'll go on to Denise. And those of you who do want to just send me in the chat button, send me your requests or any additional questions you might have for Julie. I'm sure she'd be happy to try to answer those in more specific ways if that's helpful to you. So I'm going to turn over now to Denise, and Denise Gibson owns a business called Leg Up Life Skills. So giving you a leg up, I think that's such a cute name. And Denise she has a background in psychology and education, and she's going to share some practical resources for caring for your own health and documents that every person should have to ensure that their health decisions are made accurately and your healthcare providers have correct information about you. So Denise, I'll go ahead and let you take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure I do this correctly. And there we go. All right. How does that look? Can you see it?
I can.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to start off by telling you how important this is. So, the National Institute of Health conducts reviews of communication in the parent doctor patient relationship. And they have found that effective communication is the heart and the art of medicine. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this in many visits with doctors, for yourself and for other people in your family. It's the most important part of a quality delivery of healthcare. And patient dissatisfaction and complaints are usually due to a breakdown in communication. So, if you want your doctor to provide the best possible treatment for you, it's all up to you to be the best communicator you can possibly be. So, I have a couple of tricks and tips for that. Um, so, if you have incomplete or inaccurate medical information when you go and call the doctor, your online doctor, or you're visiting them in the office, it can have serious impacts. Unless, of course, you have a magic lamp. So, contributes to inaccurate diagnosis, results in poor patient care, timely decision making, increase in medical costs. So my goal tonight is to provide the information and give you a couple of tools that will increase the quality of your care. I'm going to look at important ways to be proactive at managing your care. I am going to share information that good medical decisions depend on, and a couple of legal safeguards that everyone should have in place to be prepared for emergencies, and how you can protect yourself from fraud and scams. So, annual exam is the most important thing you can do for every member of your family. Encourage your friends. A lot of people skip that. They don't have a medical provider that they see every year. It really becomes problematic, and a lot of things get missed because they don't. So, encourage everyone to have a medical exam, an annual exam. It's usually covered by most insurances, so money isn't usually a reason not to go. And it's the best time for your provider to recommend experts in other fields. They notice something and then they'll send you to someone who could actually check it out, and maybe you could get an early diagnosis. Um, Most medical professionals would agree as the most important thing you can do, very basic actions you could take for good healthcare, are bringing the right information to your visit. um, each of us has a unique health identity, and doctors are often diagnosing based on how likely it is that you have strep throat, let's say. And but everybody's different, and if you're able to communicate what your health has been in the past and what's currently happening to you and how you feel you're changing, um, is so important. But how do you keep track of all that? So I developed, when I was an independent living skills trainer for the state of New York, I developed a personal fact sheet, and we started using it with our clients, and we found that it was so much more effective. This personal fact sheet has all the basics that a doctor would need to glance at. If you get, all of your doctors are in the same network and they all have medical documents that are all online, that's really great, but you might be seeing a specialist that isn't in that. But even having this personal fact sheet with you lets them see things at a glance. And then there's this one, includes things like your social security number, and every fact is on this personal fact sheet that they would need. But then if you want to fill out something and keep it in the glove box of your car, if you're ever in a medical emergency in your car, they usually check your glove box. Glove box in your car, carry-on travel bag, your purse. There's a travel one too. And those things have been taken out. The things that would allow someone who got it in their hands, like social security number, are missing from this, but it has the most important parts of your medical history. And it includes things like diagnoses you've had in the past, because there could be codependent diagnosis happening with each other and making other things happen more intensely. Medications, notes that you have. Another form, which is really important, is a medical appointment form. So what you do with this is you make an appointment and you write down the doctor's name, the appointment date and time, put it on your fridge or put it out where you're going to see it. And the reason you called for the appointment, that's all basic, but it really does help. Then important information to share. So I make an appointment today. I'm going to see the doctor on Thursday. On Tuesday, I have this rash on my wrist. I write it down on this form. On Wednesday, I noticed something kind of funky with my eye. I write it on the form. It may not be all one diagnosis, but then again, you're not the doctor. So if you write these things down on this form and you bring it with to your appointment, then you're not having to recall all the things that's happened in the past couple of days. You can hand it to the doctor or the nurse that checks you in. And then when they tell you some things to do when you get home, write it down here. The most important thing about this document is the appointment itself, but then you're going to take that document and you're going to keep it in a safe place. And so next year or 6 months from now, didn't I have that rash on my wrist? When was that? What did the doctor prescribe? That information is right there. And maybe that happens every 3 months. Maybe it's happening every month. And the frequency then becomes an important fact for your doctor. So having it written down collectively will be really important. Recording vital information. This is a blood pressure log. There's so many people I've run across who think that they know what their blood pressure is doing, but when they actually start writing it down, you start to see a trend. It might be time of day or what they ate, but it's important to write it down. Dental checkups. Doctors that are looking in your mouth can actually alert you to health conditions like diabetes, leukemia, oral cancer, pancreatic cancer, heart disease, kidney disease, osteoporosis. Those are all things that a dentist can identify by looking in your mouth. So going to the dentist every year, at least every 6 months is better, is so important. Routines. So routines are important, and I'm only mentioning this because your medical care also relies on routine. So if you start using these documents and you see these, go to these dentists and doctors on an annual or every 6 month basis, it becomes your routine, and then you don't think about it anymore. It's just something you do to take care of yourself and the members of your family. So I have a medical binder. I made a medical binder for everyone in my family. And that's where I keep all these notes. And I don't keep bills or matching invoices and bills in this. This is just for the medical history information. So if my adult child wants to know when the last time he got his tetanus shot, when I was living with him, it would have been in his medical binder, and he could look that up. So keeping everything together is great. So before making a healthcare decision, some people are so quick to hear what the doctor says and say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But before you make a healthcare decision, it's always your choice. Consider a new technique. Consider different perspectives. Talk to another doctor. Talk to a nurse practitioner. Look for current information on reputable sources, and then check that source. Make sure it is reputable. Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medical. There's a lot of great places that you can get some information that can allow you to develop some questions for the doctor that maybe could steer them in the direction that you think is happening. And if you think it's happening and you're starting to get fearful of that, and you ask that question, if the doctor thinks that you're way off base, they can reassure you that that's not the direction you're going to go to, and try something else first, at least. And they'll note, you're going to note that on that paper that that was your concern. So if it didn't happen the way the doctor wanted it to happen, you can come back and say, this was my concern 10 days ago, and you prescribed this. Now I want to talk about this again, and let the doctor listen to you again. Second opinions, reputable health organizations, American Heart Association, they're all very great sources online. And then a healthcare directive, so important. Very few people have them. They feel it's an uncomfortable conversation. As soon as my kids turned 18, we filled out a healthcare directive. If they were going off to college, I no longer had a right to know what was going on in their lives, and they might need some help. So healthcare directive should be just a rite of passage when you turn 18. If you don't have one, get one and have the members of your family write one out also. You can contact your doctor's office, a hospital, any place to get a healthcare directive form for the state of Minnesota. Ways you can protect yourself from fraud and scams. Sign up for the electronic statements. Stop getting statements in your mailbox. That really is a great place for people to steal information about you out of your mailbox. Always compare your medical bill to your insurance reimbursement statements. Make sure they match before you pay your bill. And sign up for appointment alerts on your phone so that the doctor's office can let you know that appointment is coming up so you don't miss your appointments. And then you can also set up direct pay to the insurance company, not putting a check in the mail, and let them get paid right out of your checking account. And then you have a good record of that. And that's it for me for tonight. Thanks for listening to a couple of tips that I've used that I found very effective. And get in touch with me if you have any additional questions. I'd be happy to help you.
Okay, did anyone have any questions for Denise? Okay, I don't see any takers. So I'm gonna just let you go. It's a little early unless somebody has some additional questions. We will say goodnight, and then hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. If you do know of people that you think would benefit from these enrichment classes, we will be offering them again this winter. Denise is doing one right now. We have 2 other ones being offered. One is on finding your purpose. The other one is on grief exploration. So we actually have 3 classes going right now and hope to offer another 3 or 4 after the holidays. Also in 2 weeks, on November 4th, I'll be talking about preparing for the holidays, especially challenging this year, but just some tips for how to handle family time, the traditions and the things that we so much associate with holidays are so difficult when you're grieving. And I wanted to, I'm just 3 years down the road, but I feel like I've learned a lot of things and I would like to share those with you. So hopefully that will be a help to you. And then one of our financial coaches will be sharing, he's going to talk about giving at the end of the year and also about what records you need to keep for your taxes and kind of a little bit about keeping organized in terms of record keeping, what you can shred and what. So I think that's pretty practical stuff. Let me know if you have any additional questions or you want some resources. You can contact me through our website. So thank you again for everyone who's attended, and especially Denise and Julie for sharing your wisdom with us. And have a great evening. Stay warm and stay healthy, everyone.